Can you hear me? Check, check, check. Can you hear me? Ooh, ooh, ooh. Hey, what's up? I'm Austin Griffith. I am the director of research at Gitcoin, and I'm going to kind of talk about UX and trade-offs and kind of focus on recent projects I've had with meta transactions and burner wallets. Let's just dive into it. So about a year and a half ago, I started building games on Ethereum. This is a hand-painted game called Gallias. You kind of sail ships around. But what kind of came out of that, other than learning a whole ton about Ethereum, was that UX is really clunky and hard to do. Onboarding is even harder. How do we fix that, right? I built another game at ETH Denver. Again, it was like you were constantly hitting MetaMask dialogues, and that just was not fun. And then to get someone on board, they also had to have Ethereum, so it's just a pain in the butt. Then I started trying to contribute stuff to the ecosystem, kind of, instead of doing games, let's find something that someone might need. I made a blocky miner that, you know, the little Ethereum identicons that they mined. It didn't really do anything, it just mined blocks, but did like pixel-to-pixel comparison and tried to show that the security wasn't the best with blockies, but that's just something that we learn, right? So then I made this like hackathon project called Nifties vs. Nifties. Whether we put an I in the word Nifties for ERC 721s. It was just a fun project, but it started teaching me about these, the sort of spectrum of onboarding and how you can get users in. In this one, I learned that what we needed to do was, so instead of, with all of my games, you would have like this hard wall of MetaMask. And if you didn't have MetaMask, basically, you didn't get anything in my game. And this was the first one where I was like, well, at least I could do reads from Infura. And that's sort of obvious now that like we should give the user basically the experience of the app without MetaMask or anything else. And so kind of like centralization came in with my own servers and stuff like that. But I just learned a lot from that. And then that got me to meta transactions. So a meta transaction, we've already talked about it. You probably have heard about it before, but it's basically like a normal transaction, except for it doesn't go on chain. Basically, a gasless account can sign the call data of a transaction and send it to a relay network, and that relay network can submit it on behalf of you, and they pay the gas if they're somehow incentivized. So that means that your user can just drop into your page and start using the app by just signing things, right? An Ethereum account is super easy. Like the key pair is super easy to generate. You can generate them thousands per second, right? But getting ETH is super hard. You have to go, you know how hard it is to get ETH. So if we want to onboard users, kind of the pitch is, let's pay for their gas, let's give them the app up front, and let's let them use meta transactions and some other tricks to basically get into the app first, and then later on we'll sell them on a C phrase and getting ETH and all of that stuff that comes along with it. Then I kind of took like a side route. We launched Gitcoin Labs, and we did the 1337 standard that Scott just talked about. It's kind of a recurring meta transaction. It just highlights that there are these other tricks that we can do with meta transactions other than just good UX. With these, you signed a single meta transaction and then they replay, and that's what's powering Gitcoin grants right now. You can get on, and there's really cool CLR matching and neat stuff going on with that, but it's basically recurring payment to help with open source sustainability and stuff like that. So Gitcoin Labs was launched, and then I kind of had these like week-long projects where I would just do R&D in a certain area, and we did counterfactual instantiation and payment channels and a bunch of other things. But then I dove back into meta transactions a while later, and kind of this idea emerged of native meta transactions, where instead of using a bouncer proxy, where you're sending that meta transaction to a relay network, and then they're submitting it to a bouncer proxy contract, and that contract is recovering it and putting it on chain to be cryptographically backed. It's better if you're redeploying your contract now. Like if you're making a token and you're deploying that token to chain or any kind of app, you should be seriously thinking about respecting signed messages. So it's super easy to do. You just do an EC recover from the signed message. You prove that this person was the one that signed it, and then you use that account as the owner. So instead of doing a message.sender, you do like a signer, whoever was the signer of the meta transaction. So then this sort of got me back to where I was with the games, where I was talking about mainstream adoption. How do we get mainstream adoption? Well, we got to get kind of some of the other stuff out of the way, right? So can we abstract away MetaMask by just generating them an account when they land on the page, right? Can we get rid of gas and having to understand ETH by using these meta transactions? Did I say ephemeral accounts? Ephemeral accounts first, then meta transactions, then ENS, right? Get the hashes out of the way, just give them a nice little name. And then optimistic UI even, right? Even block times are a little bit hard for someone to get around, so you can prove that it's going to happen. Your app should just display that it's going to work, right? So I made this like Ether Jam, and then at DevCon 4, we did Once Upon a Time, which is like this collaborative storytelling app. But the gist of it is you drop into the app and you just start using it. This was a collaborative storytelling app, and you could just drop in and start writing parts of the story. All of that was going on chain. It was cryptographically backed, but the user didn't have to worry about having ETH or paying gas or any of that. So then the next Gitcoin Labs, we were talking about this burner wallet that I kind of had come up with this thing before DevCon, and I showed it off to a few people, and they were actually stoked on it, and I didn't think they were going to be. It was just like kind of like a little funny proof of concept, but it kind of got a little traction, and so the thesis here is that there are these emerging economies, so we don't need blockchain in the perfect world, but there are not perfect world places, and maybe some would argue that even the world that I think is perfect may not be perfect, and we should have blockchain. But anyways, there are these reasons why maybe we should use these UX trade-offs and decentralization and all this stuff to drive mass adoption. And so kind of with the same idea of the ephemeral keys, I created this burner wallet at xdai.io, and I had lots of help, of course. But basically, it's the same thing, right? We have ephemeral keys. We're going to run on the XDAI network. He just mentioned that the last speaker talked about the XDAI network. You've got fast transactions, you've got super cheap fees, and the native currency is DAI, so low cognitive overhead. If you know you have one DAI, you have $1. So then this really, really simple web wallet started to grow into the burner wallet. And how many people in here actually have a burner wallet in their pocket? Anybody? Oh, yes. All right. You guys are awesome. That was, for anybody who couldn't see, that was like 60%, I would say. I'm just going to put the mic down and go. You guys got it. That's wonderful. So the burner wallet is at xdai.io, and it is this web wallet. It's kind of evolved. We've done, I think this is in, that was in French. I think that's French. It's been translated. I've had a lot of help with design. We've built in a lot more features to the wallet, like there's an exchange where you can easily go from ETH to DAI to XDAI to even a token if you want to run a conference, and I'll get to that. There's chat. There's a lot of other features that now we're kind of thinking that we need to kind of pull back from a little bit to speed up the load time, and we'll get to that eventually. So then we kind of thought, well, wait a minute, this wallet works pretty well. What if we used it at ETH Denver to buy food at the food trucks? That would be probably a horrible disaster to try to have people have to pay crypto to buy their food, especially thousands of people. And so we got the wallet pretty solid, but to test this out 6 weeks in advance before ETH Denver, I did a one per week event called Cypherpunk Speakeasies. And what we did at the Speakeasies was we emulated the exact setup of what ETH Denver was going to be. So you got these paper wallets. I'm going to jump over here. I think my paper wallets are here. I can hand out a couple. Sorry, dude. So we printed out these paper wallets that had private keys on them. And the private keys, so here we go. Oh, back to the Blocky miner. I mined hearts. And so that account is like a heart. But basically, these paper wallets have a private key on the inside. And that private key is preloaded with enough funds for the person to buy a beer and a half and also gas. So they're tokens. So you've got ETH, and then you've got DAI, and then you have XDAI, and then you have this burn token is what we called it. And the cool thing about having a token that's running on XDAI is that you need to have about a penny of XDAI, and a penny will get you hundreds of transactions, but that's all I had to really drop them. Like real money that I had to send to participants was like a penny. And then they would take their tokens and they would go up and they would buy a beer. So the whole process is basically you get handed one of these at the door, you shoot that private key with your camera phone or a QR code reader, it seeds a wallet. So you basically have a wallet with money in it 10 seconds later, maybe, probably 15 with the slow load times that we're working on. But basically, like within a very small fraction of time, you have a web wallet that's running on your phone and you're ready to buy beer. So then you walk up to the bar. This was basically what the bartender looked like. He had this QR code here. You scan that with your scanner. So this is the little scan button here, right there. You hit that button, you scan the QR code, and you got a beer. And basically, I repeated that process for 6 weeks, just having participants go through the whole thing, where I would buy them beer, they would go to the bar, I would hand them the paper wallet, they would go to the bar, they would buy beer. And there were little things like this little send button was up in the top right, and people were like reaching with their other hand to click it. So I'm like, okay, I got to get that down closer to the thumb. Like little things like that. We just iterated on over and over to make sure ETH Denver ran smooth. So then at ETH Denver, we pulled it off pretty much. There were some things we learned, but basically the numbers are we had 4,405 meals purchased, and that was, let's see, each purchase was about, you can see this here, 0.000046 cents. So each transaction cost that much to purchase your meal. And it was the exact same process here. They got a solid coin instead of a paper wallet. You can see the solid coin being scanned in here. So basically that right there, that video right there, is the process of onboarding. You hit the scanner and you have the wallet. And so then you walk up to the food truck, you scan their QR code, you say, I want to pay for a meal, and it's done. So 4,400 meals, 0.00046 cents. So if we multiply that out, it comes out to about 20 cents. So the entire event with 4,000 transactions ended up being 20 cents to run on XDAI. So super cheap. And really, like, Igor deserves that, right? That's POA running an awesome network. The wallet is just like the fourth thing, right? You've got quick transactions, cheap transactions, pinned to the dollar, and then the last little bit was let's throw the private key in local storage and make a web wallet and make it quick. But, so then we had 40,000 to add to that. There's $40,000 that was off-ramp to the food trucks. So there was a lot of money that moved through. The food trucks all got paid. We had kind of the gotcha system is we wanted to be safe. ETH Denver wanted to be safe with how we distributed funds. So we had a wet oracle in the middle, which was basically a human that when the food truck on their iPad, so they use their own devices. That's also something we should say. Like when the food truck was going to sign up for Buffadai, which was the currency, basically they just went to buffadai.io on their iPad and they had a wallet. So we just scanned in their own QR code, and they had a wallet just like all the participants. But basically, the food trucks had a cash out button. So they would, make $1,200 a night or whatever it was. They would get to the end of the night, and they would hit cash out, and that would basically like signal something to. They actually burned their tokens, and by burning the tokens, that would send a message to our oracle, and then our oracle would trigger with another button push that we could have totally automated, but didn't for safety. He pushed a button, and that triggered a wire transfer, like send wire, W-Y-R-E. Triggered a wire transfer that sent them DAI. So they were paid in crypto. The whole event ran on crypto, but there's still that wet oracle in the middle, so I got to have the gotcha there. So yeah, check out the ETH Denver burner wallet stuff. There's lots of fun stuff there. So now kind of moving on to what's next for the burner wallet and how we make that thing in 60% people's pockets in here. That's awesome. Let's get it up to 80% in a little bit. Let's see what we can do. So what are we going to do? We're going to explore the first epoch is basically exploring this whole conference thing, right? So if we can create you a local coin, we can white label your conference. We can deploy a special token with special parameters. That's totally up to you. So if you have like even a crypto meetup all the way up to DevCon 5. We would like to be the currency at that event and the wallet at that event because it's just really easy to onboard anybody with this system. So we're going to kind of focus on that, try to build a portal for people to get into and kind of white label the burner. The next is just R&D. We're looking at all sorts of neat things so my theory is that now that you have a quick way to send money, right? It's sort of like your cash in your pocket, right? It's analogous to cash. You wouldn't want to put thousands of dollars on a burner. You also don't put thousands of dollars in your pocket and walk around, I hope. So the burner is like your cash in your pocket. Now that you have cash in your pocket, I think the next step is probably going to be spending that on at events, but also on dApps. So I think that the R&D side is going to be looking at how we kind of wrap existing dApps with a burner provider or a burner wrapper. Maybe even we set up an API so people can sign things with their burner. And then long-term is adoption. Let's make this thing work. Let's translate it into every language we can. Let's make it super simple. Let's just get it into the places where they really need it. So this is a demo of just like signing with burner. This is my buddy Brian Ethier doing a demo where he has mydai.io, I think. Oh, that's localhost right now, but it's mydai.com or .io or something like that. But basically, he makes a new wallet and just hooks it into the burner. And I think what is he doing? He's sending XDAI. And basically, when you send XDAI, you can hook into the burner, and you can say, go, and it's basically like an API that lets you, there we go, we see he triggered a transaction there at the end. So there's this like kind of permissionless extensibility that can come out of this with the burner. And we're also looking at wire integration. So kind of, this is the exchange page. You can see that you can move, XDAI to DAI and DAI to ETH. But even better, what would be cool is if you could use wire. Basically, you select like, hey, I want to put my debit card in here, so I want to take $25 and pump that into my wallet, put in your debit card, probably a little bit of KYC, maybe like your address and stuff. I'm not exactly sure, I haven't jammed through the widget yet, but it's going to be pretty simple and pretty awesome to be able to just pull up your burner wallet, throw in a debit card, and get 25 bucks that you can use in crypto. Now that you have the wallet, or actually, let's say now that my mom has the wallet, and it was really easy to onboard her at Thanksgiving. I basically just showed her a QR code, and she had a wallet with money in it. What's next within the wallet? And I think that education is really important. I view this as kind of like the top of the funnel where a lot of people can come in, but then crypto's complicated. I mean, it's a badass technology, and I love it, but it's complicated. And so there are certain things that we have to figure out of like, what do we teach them about and what do we hide away, right? And I think for UX and good adoption, we have to almost hide everything away at first, but then we have to slowly kind of show some stuff off. So one thing is like a seed phrase. Should we, after you've used the wallet for a little bit, right? You got right in, you used it, maybe you have $40 in your wallet or something like that. Can we now, since you're incentivized to protect that money, sort of educate you on how to go about securing that? And my theory from a long time ago was that you just don't hit someone with a seed phrase at first. When you're hit with a wallet download or you're hit with a seed phrase, that's a really rough piece of adoption and onboarding. So but it's super easy when my mom has $50 in a burner wallet to teach her about a seed phrase. It's kind of like a password, but if you lose it, you're done forever, and we're working on better recovery. We're working on it. But she's much more inclined to be educated about me telling her about a seed phrase once she has that $50 in her hand. But if I just hit her with that at first, she's going to black out and not want anything to do with it, right? Yeah, social recovery is kind of part of that. And then probably a wallet download, right? If you have too much money in the burner wallet, it probably should scream at you and call you a knucklehead and tell you to go download Balance or something like that, right? Can they download Balance? It's not even live yet, is it? Testing it. Okay, cool. So, oh no, my emoji seed phrases. It didn't load in. There's supposed to be a little alligator and a fist bump right here. I just set it up in the Airbnb just now. Like, I just edited these slides. But the idea here, and I think Rick and I were at breakfast this morning talking about good ways to do seed phrases, and we came up with an emoji seed phrase. So instead of, and this idea has been thrown around. This is Alex Van de Zandt talking about something very similar. But if I want to educate people and I want to do it in a very smooth and nice way, can we do emojis for seed phrases, right? So let's say you've used the burner for a while, or you've collected enough money in your burner that we get to the point where it's like, okay, it's time for you to like level up. It's time for a little gamification. What if we slide something down and say, like, hey, you want to learn about a seed phrase? And you say no. And then like a few days later, like, hey, you want to, like, maybe if we do an emoji seed phrase, maybe you'd be more interested in that. So if you could protect your cash in your pocket with just like 6 little icons, you can tell a little story with those 6 icons. I don't know, this guy's laughing at a rocket because he's a cool guy on fire and he loves unicorns. Something like that, right? Like if you could come up with a phrase that you can remember and no one else can, there's probably enough entropy in 6 emojis, but maybe we could do some more. We'll have to kind of do the math on that. So yeah, I think we have time to do a little live demo onboarding kind of stuff. What's my next slide? Oh, okay, cool. So yeah, so this is the burner wallet. It exists at xdai.io. We have collectibles. I should have mentioned that. But let's do some onboarding. So someone who doesn't have a burner yet, maybe someone with like an iPhone, it's a little easier. Let's see if we can shoot you $1. So don't steal this, anybody that already has an iPhone. You can totally read this QR code right now. Don't do it. Okay, someone who wants to do it? Someone, there we go. It's George. You got an iPhone ready? All right, here we go. So I'm going to send him $1 what I'm doing is I'm going to wrap up $1 in an escrow account. And this is an extra tricky live demo because I'm using the gas station network from Yoav, and we're hoping these relayers work, but how do I make this bigger? Let's see, that's probably not big enough to read, is it? It's already going? Yeah. All right. So what he's seeing is the burner loading page, which we need to do a better job with also. And then he's seeing a little page that says claiming, and it basically takes the meta transaction. He has $1, everyone. Look at that. So what happened there is I wrapped up $1 in an escrow contract. And then I sent him a private key that can get that $1 out. But he doesn't have any gas, right? He basically has a wallet at xdai.io. When you land on xdai.io, it just generates you a wallet, right? So he has a wallet, he has a key pair, but he doesn't have any money, and he needs a little bit of xdai as ETH, basically as gas, to be able to claim that money. So I sent him a meta transaction along with that key pair, and then what he has to do is submit that meta transaction to Yoav's gas station network. And Yoav's gas station network is a decentralized set of relayers where there's a smart contract that lets you register your relays, and then there's staking and slashing on-chain to keep them honest. And what happens is his meta transaction drops to one of the relayers, depending on, you just kind of pick one. And instead of going into a pool, it's basically a relay returns pattern where he hits a relayer with his meta transaction, and the relay immediately returns him a normal Ethereum transaction signed and ready to go. And if it doesn't, he'll just hit another relayer, right? So he's got a list of relays. They're incentivized to perform correctly, and he can just hit a couple of them. He can hit the first one, and if it doesn't immediately respond with a normal HTTP response, he can pick another one. And basically he picked one, it went through. That meta transaction went on-chain, the escrow paid him back, and he got $1 without ever having to have any. So basically, he took a picture or he scanned a QR code, and he now has a wallet with money in it. And that's like the top of the funnel, right, for onboarding, right? You can get your gam in on crypto by just showing her a QR code. So we could do it again. This will be a little race. We'll see who gets it. I'm going to put $5 up in a QR code, and whoever scans it will get that $5. A lot of people will probably get a little thing that jams up and tells them you didn't get it, but I'd be interested to see who does get it. Anybody? Anybody get $5? Oh, I closed it too. Did anybody get it in time? Here, let me do another one. This will be $3. So yeah, this is like the coolest way to onboard somebody is just to walk up, hit link, put a couple bucks in it, and just like kind of show them that QR code. What other? I basically just have a thank you slide. How am I doing on time? What time am I supposed to stop? Am I good? I have 1 minute? Okay, any questions? How about that? Look, everyone, get that $3. Any questions about the burner wallet meta transactions? Yes, Mr. ENS.
I have a question. Can you hear? Yeah. Okay. I have a question about interoperability, and especially because I work at ENS, and you mentioned like ENS a couple of times, which is great. But what I'm trying to think is, what would happen for example, in case of ENS, would you want us to deploy on its own ENS on a poor network and its own naming, or would you rather reference back to the mainnet?
Yeah, so since it's on mainnet, I can just go do a read off the mainnet, right? So eventually I'll probably register them their own subdomains at Burner Wallet, but I think I'll keep it on the mainnet.
Even for the contract wallet, which might not exist on mainnet?
Oh, yes, I think, yes. So that's another step of like the gamification, right? Once you've gotten in and you've used it a lot, I think that deploying them their own like Gnosis Safe or some kind of multi-sig on behalf of them and then hooking up ENS on top of it is good. Is that what you're asking?
On ENS on the poor network?
Yeah, on the wallet, on the contract wallet.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, here's my ENS demo. Let's see if this works. So you go to Burner Wallet, you type in the to address, AustinGriffith.eth, there we go. So it does respect ENS. It goes out to the main network and does it, yeah. Anybody else? Come find me and I will give you $1 to get onboarded onto the Burner Wallet. And then you can show it to your grandma and tell me how the user experience goes. All right, thanks guys.